So Trump's ICE immigration nationalistic policies are costing America hundreds of billions of dollars. And the proof of that is what Hyundai just did a few days ago. They told Georgia, we're done. You want to know why they did? Is because America does not protect the rights of their citizens. It does not protect the rights of migrants. It does not protect the rights of people that are visiting this country from other tourists, and they're looking at the United States and they're saying, you literally just put on your damn social media feeds to millions of people, our executives, our people who we trust to protect our tens of billions of dollars worth of investment, that they will protect it and that they will train your employees to protect our investment. That's what those 300 people there were there for. And you arrested them, you threw them in jail, and the jails that they were in were not exactly nice. And you're not going to hold anyone accountable. So they're gone. Now, other countries have seen this. Other multi-billion-dollar companies have seen this. And they're watching it. And a number of them, particularly Asian companies, like even Japan, has warned that it might not do the investments into the United States. Japanese companies like Mitsubishi and others have said, no, we're kind of watching. They're still conducting business, but they're basically saying, listen, what if that's us? And so rather than investing into the United States, they just say, listen, we're just going to go someplace else. Because they can. This is the problem that we have by living in a society without empathy. You see, an empathetic response to, for example, Mitsubishi, and Mitsubishi being, or Hyundai being extremely successful, and looking at Hyundai and saying, yeah, you guys are incredibly successful. That's incredible stuff. Congratulations. I would like to learn what you did that was successful. That's empathy. Empathy acknowledges the success of another human being and praises that success, and then you try to learn from that success. That's empathy. Not having empathy is, I'm only empathetic to my group, to my nation, to my party, to whatever. So people having success outside of your group is you get angry and jealous and frustrated. Because that's not your group. Your group should be doing that. Your group should have success because your empathy is directed towards your internal people, and the poor people that are part of your clique, the poor people that are inside of your group, they're supposed to have all the jobs that are out there and not people from other groups. They need to go first. That's what is not having empathy does. So Hyundai just said, we're gone. You can't respect us, you're not going to respect us, and you're not going to protect our investment. Other companies are learning from this and not doing it. And that's only the beginning. You see, having ICE behave the way it's behaving and having immigration behave like that towards Hyundai, what do you think it's doing to just like low-level nothing people that are just tourists? And the answer is terrorizing them. Literally people who are traveling from other countries, like, for example, my brother-in-law, who is a New Zealander, who married my sister, who lives in New Zealand, he didn't want to come here to even see my dying mother. He's a great guy. He's an amazing guy. But he wouldn't want to come here because what America's doing to tourists, stopping them, forcing them to show their phones, and even people who have been arrested and held in ICE custody for weeks. That's literally what's out there. And countries don't like, and because of this, people don't come here. And again, the proof is not the one or two stories. The proof is Hyundai. Because even at the tens of billions of dollars building factories, creating jobs, and those jobs massively improving the communities that they are in, because these people are going to be paid, $100,000 a year, maybe $80,000 a year, which means that they're going to be able to buy houses, and they're going to be able to go to restaurants, and they're going to go to movies and all this stuff, right? Because they have the income. Not anymore. And if you're willing to do that with that, then you are more than willing to terrorize people who are just trying to come here to be tourists. And that is showing up in tourist towns around the country whose restaurants are not being full. Because tourism restaurants, or restaurants in tourist areas, they know when the tourism season is. Like, down in Florida, tends to be around the wintertime when it's snow season up in Canada, and the Canadians come to be in the heat and the warmth and the beaches of Florida, but they're not coming. Not just because of the political differences, but because of what they see America doing, and so they're not coming. It's the same thing with conventions. Conventions that were once going to Texas are now going to Canada or other places. It's crazy because of these nationalistic immigration and ICE policies, which is teaching the world that we're not safe, that we're not what we were. And what makes this even worse is this nationalistic kind of like unempathetic position as it relates to other countries and tariffs. So what countries are doing is they're just basically getting around the United States. A big example of that is like with farmers right now who used to be selling their soybeans to China. Listen, not having empathy to China and saying, hey, the Chinese economy is doing very well, the people of China are buying a lot of our soybean, that's a really great thing, thank you, you guys are great, love your country, love its history, you guys are pretty amazing people. Granted, there are some things where we disagree with, but at the end of the day, I can respect you. And I respect you a lot because, in all honesty, you're part of the economic well-being of my farm. Thank you. You're helping my family, and I'm helping provide you food. Great. Awesome day. But not. And as a result, China unplugs from the United States and gets its soybean from, like, Brazil or other countries. And the problem that you're going to have with that is even if Trump comes up with a deal, that doesn't mean that China is going to buy as much soybean, because it just made contracts with Brazil for a lot of soybean. And that means your farm, where before it was immune from the price of soybean from Brazil, now you're going to have to beat out Brazil and other countries. And on top of having to beat them out, you have to wait to determine the contract that buyers made with Brazil and whether or not you can even legally fit inside of that agreement. So you're really hurt. It also occurs with Canada. Canada has been making massive contracts with Mexico. It massively increased its trade with Mexico. There have been some statements that it's become their major supplier of goods, the major trading partner with Canada. And because of that, we're cut out. And that means if you are making products or services that Canadians are buying that are now being made in Mexico, you're gone. You now have to compete with the price of products and services from Mexico. And what's worse than that for you is even if you do compete, it's the contract themselves. And then, of course, you go on to the next portion of his ICE strategy, which has been from the beginning. Migrants. People that are living here, who've lived here for decades, picking food and, doing construction, hanging out in front of Home Depots, all that sort of stuff. These guys. It's pretty clear that people are not replacing the jobs of the people picking fruits and vegetables and doing farm work around the country. The expectation that perhaps people who would be on Medicaid would do so, not happening. Now, the reason why that is because there's a lot of people on Medicaid. In fact, most people on Medicaid are working. And those people that are working, or even if they are going to have to look for work or volunteers or whatever that they're going to do, they're going to assess the type of job. And if they can get a job doing retail in a air-conditioned place, it's not a great deal of money, but you know what? It's not working in the sun. It's not. So that comfort is what they might value more than money. Or it has a value that has a monetary value of living in a comfortable environment versus working in the sun with the bugs and everything else. Some people like working in the sun. Some people like working outside. But some people don't. These jobs are not being replaced. And that's why we're running into like the two-phased problem with consumers, because not only is the soybean not being sold to China and any other country around the world, and those countries forming trading partnerships around the United States, even if it's literally between Canada and Mexico, which is literally leaving out the entire airspace of the United States. You know what? And what is happening with us is that affects us as consumers, because that profitability of selling to those countries no longer exists, but they were still building with the idea of doing those businesses. So this is like a major negative impact on those companies and on those farmers, and whether or not those farms and those companies are going to exist, because America is only what? It's less than 10% of the population of the entire world, around 5%, somewhere in that range. It's a very small percentage of the entire world population, and the world population can buy stuff. And they're not buying American, because American is too expensive, and America is no longer seen as an ethical society that respects empathy, that respects human rights, that respects the rights of their tourists coming from their country, that respects the rights of their companies investing into the United States. This is a massive problem for the United States. And yeah, to me, the only way how you stop this is you vote Democrat. Because Republicans should be stopping this, should be crushing this, because they live in the states and in the precincts where the tourism is where the lack of tourists are showing up, where the lack of these factories are showing up, where these lack of foreign investments are showing up, where migrant workers are not completing projects. And they're not completing projects because they are more afraid of ICE deporting them and what happens in ICE detention facilities and all this stuff. They're more concerned with that than they are in completing projects and getting food to your table. And politicians who are supposed to be representing those interests are not standing up to Trump and telling Trump, no, we got to get this done. We got to get this building done. These house repairs need to get done. Those things need to be picked. And you're destroying those workers. And you're destroying the contracts that those people have overseas. You're not protecting the interests of their constituents, which is why they need to go. Trump should be in a massive amount of trouble because Mitsubishi pulled tens of billions of dollars out of the United States, costing countless thousands of jobs, and telling other companies from around the world that the United States is not a safe investment. This is why Trump needs to go. This is why you need to vote Democrat. This is why, if Trump is doing anything to protect his butt by redistricting your area, you need to kill that. You need to tell your representative that the American economy is at stake because of his immigration policies. And they must be changed, and they must be changed now, not 2 weeks from now, today. Like, share, subscribe. Please debate me. I'd love to be able to hear you. So here we go. Good luck.